It was a cold, foggy evening in London when Inspector Harold Grayson received a call. The British Museum had reported a murder, and the victim was none other than Sir Reginald Moore, a famous historian and curator. Grayson, a seasoned detective with a sharp mind and a keen eye for detail, quickly made his way to the scene. The museum was eerily quiet, its grand halls filled with ancient artifacts and shadows that seemed to dance in the dim light. Grayson was met by Constable Peters, who led him to the Egyptian exhibit where the body had been found. Sir Reginald lay sprawled on the floor, a look of shock frozen on his face. A small, blood-stained dagger lay beside him, its handle carved with hieroglyphics. Grayson knelt beside the body, examining the scene. "Who found him?" he asked. "That would be me, Inspector," came a trembling voice. Grayson looked up to see a young woman in a museum uniform. Her name was Clara, and she was one of the museum's tour guides. "I was closing up the exhibit when I saw him." "Like this?" Grayson nodded, taking out his notebook. "Did you notice anything unusual earlier in the day? Any arguments or strange behavior?" Clara hesitated. "Well, Sir Reginald did have a heated discussion with Mr. Blackwood earlier. They were arguing about something to do with an artifact." "Mr. Blackwood?" Grayson asked, raising an eyebrow. "Arthur Blackwood," Clara explained. "He's a wealthy collector and a frequent visitor to the museum. He and Sir Reginald didn't always see eye to eye." Grayson made a note of this and decided to speak with Blackwood next. He found the man in the museum's library, flipping through an old book. Blackwood was a tall, imposing figure with a sharp jawline and cold, calculating eyes. "Mr. Blackwood," Grayson began, "I understand you had an argument with Sir Reginald earlier today. Care to explain?" Blackwood sighed, closing the book. "It was nothing serious, Inspector. Sir Reginald and I had a difference of opinion regarding a newly acquired artifact. He believed it belonged in the museum, while I thought it should be in a private collection. That's all." Grayson studied Blackwood carefully. The man seemed calm, but there was something in his tone that didn't sit right. "Where were you at the time of the murder?" "I was here, in the library," Blackwood replied. "Alone, unfortunately. So, I have no alibi." Grayson thanked him and left, his mind racing. He decided to check the security footage next. The museum had cameras installed in most of its exhibits, and Grayson hoped they would provide some clues. The footage revealed something interesting. Just before the murder, a shadowy figure had entered the Egyptian exhibit. The person was wearing a hood, making it impossible to identify them. However, Grayson noticed something peculiar. The figure was carrying a bag, which they left behind near the exhibit entrance. Grayson rushed back to the scene and found the bag. Inside was a set of tools, including a lockpick and a small flashlight. There was also a receipt from a nearby antique shop, dated that very day. The detective wasted no time. He visited the antique shop and spoke with the owner, who remembered selling the tools to a man matching Blackwood's description. Grayson now had enough evidence to confront Blackwood again. Back at the museum, Grayson found Blackwood in the same spot in the library. "Mr. Blackwood," he said, holding up the receipt, "care to explain why you purchased these tools?" Blackwood's face turned pale. I can explain," he stammered. "I was planning to steal the artifact Sir Reginald, and I argued about. But I swear, I didn't kill him. When I got to the exhibit, he was already dead. I panicked and left the bag behind." Grayson narrowed his eyes. "If you didn't kill him, then who did?" Before Blackwood could answer, Claire burst into the room, tears streaming down her face. "Inspector, I have to confess, it was me. I killed Sir Reginald." Grayson was stunned. "Why would you do that?" Clara took a deep breath. Sir Reginald was my father. He abandoned my mother and me when I was a child. I only took this job to get close to him. When I confronted him today, he refused to acknowledge me. I lost control and I stabbed him. The room fell silent. Grayson sighed, feeling the weight of the tragedy. Clara, I'm going to have to take you in. As Clara was led away, Grayson couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness. The case was solved, but the cost had been high. The museum, once a place of wonder and history, now held a dark secret one that would haunt its halls for years to come. And so, the mystery of the murder at the museum was finally unraveled, but the scars it left behind would never fully heal.